일단은 뭐지? 앞으로 안 가지는데? 뭐지? 어? 우와, 뭐야? 열어볼까? 네. 어떻게 열어?
A
아,
lot of this
이렇게.
isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
소리가 좀 작나? 쉬프트 누르면
I
확대된다.
lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. I hadn't been
조금만.
back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
루이스 오빠? 우와, 미쳤는데, 이거?
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe
열쇠.
she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
여기 핀치가인 것 같아요. 그죠?
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
어?
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it.
나 집 상속자인가
But
보다.
now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The
이게
house was
집이야?
exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
근데 진짜 죄송한데 음향 효과를 좀 줄이고 음악도 좀 줄이고 소리를 좀 높여볼게요.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
집이 두려워? 여기 아닌가? 근데 이거 뭔가 진짜 죄송한데 컨트롤 한번 해볼게요. 제가 마우스 감도를 빠른 걸 좋아해서 열쇠가 이건가? 야, 이거 조작법이 좀 어렵다.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
그래요. 여기는 차고인 것 같죠?
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
헉!
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
루이스, 에디스. 던? 이 에디스가 난가 보다. 헉, 루이스 오빠도 죽었어. 루이스 핀치. 어, 던의 아들. 이 루이스 오빠가 가족들 중에 먼저 갔나? 그래, 뭐야 이거?
Like how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
하하, 몰리. 꼬리를 조금만 더 키워도 되지 않을까 싶은데.
Or how only one restaurant would deliver to our house. So we had Chinese a lot.
중식. 너무 큰가? 너무 크면 나중에 줄여볼게요.
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it. Like a
그러니까.
smile with too many teeth.
그러니까 뭐가 되게 많아. 2010년? 이 시대는 몇 년도지?
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
밀턴? 아, 쉬프트. 아, 내가 컨트롤 누른 거였나? 아닌데? 쉬프트 컨트롤 다 확대네. 손 못 들어가는 것 같고. 밑에 여기 좀만 더 볼까요? 응?
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house. Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
봐봐라.
Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house after it sank.
우와. 뭔가 되게 우리 엄마인가 그러면? 엄마 이름이 던인가? 이거 못 보나? 못 보고 이것도 이렇게 둘러보는 게임인 건가?
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
아,
It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
그러네. 뭔가 다 살고 있는 것 같아, 아직. 그죠? 식기들도 이렇게 있고. 이제 올라가 볼까요?
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
어? 에디가 그러면 엄마의 엄마? 이게 뭐야?
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
왜? 가볼까?
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
아, 잠궜네요.
Edie's father, Odin, built the original house.
오딘. 무슨 소리가 들려. 책도 많고. 책 진짜 많다. 열쇠가 많네. 스벤. 스벤이 할아버지였나? 뭐야?
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room.
여기가
I think my mom
어머.
sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
왜? 우와. 윌터였나? 월터? 잘 못 봤어.
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
이 열쇠가 이거구나.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
우와.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
밀턴 오빠는 그림을 좋아했나 봐. 우와. 약간 네버랜드 온 것 같은 느낌이야.
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
읽을 수 있는 건 없죠? 아, 뭐야?
But I had no idea what was behind that door.
우와. 누구 방이지, 여기?
Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
대박인데? 잠시만요, 소리를. 한 단계만 더 높여볼게요. 아니다, 지금도 괜찮죠? 그냥 그대로 해볼게요. 누구 방일까? 에디랑 스벤. 안 보여. 뭐라고 적혀있죠? 몰리. 여기 몰리 방인가? 여긴 1947년이야.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here
에디?
before my mom sealed the doors.
몰리.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
소리를 조금 켜도 될 것 같다.
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
어?
My Halloween candy was all gone.
뭐지? 여기도 문이 있고 저기도 문이 있네? 여기 한번 열어볼게요.
Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
좀 어두운 것 같기도 하고. 발길을 조금 올려도 될 것 같다는 생각이 드네. 아이고.
I kept eating and eating.
왜? 어우.
I ate a lot of things that night.
뭘 먹는 거야?
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly,
어?
I was a cat.
어떡해? 뭐야? 어떻게 가지? 아, 마우스로 하면 된다.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared. Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
어?
I jumped and I almost got her. I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird. I gobbled her up,
먹었어.
and suddenly I was an owl.
어?
First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass. Rabbits.
뭐가 어떻게 돼가고 있는 거지? 아! 잘못하고 있었네. 내가 좌클릭을 했었어야 됐네. 죄송해요, 여러분.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
더 큰 거? 아, 뺑뺑이 들고 있었나봐. 토끼 어딨냐? 여기다.
A mama rabbit. She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating.
심장 소리.
I was a shark.
에?
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
오, 이번엔 이렇게?
I wanted fat, juicy seals. I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
어디 갔어? 여기 있다.
I grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
뭐야?
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet.
여기인가? 아닌가 보다. 너무 징그러.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
잉. 와, 어떡하지?
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
무섭다. Oh no. 불안한데?
I got closer and closer.
내 방향인데?
All my stomach started growling.
어,
And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
와, 소름 끼쳐.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
근데 꿈이겠지? 꿈이겠지. 아,
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
엄마는 모든 걸 알고
I
있었나?
spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's room. Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
어. 완전 핑크인데? 개구리?
The
이번엔
only trace
개구리
Grandpa
아니야?
Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
이번엔 개구리로
was a
변하는 거
pretty big
아니냐고.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
헉! 어. 으차.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
아, 여기 거긴가 보다. 그 뭐라 하지? 아, 머리가 안 돌아가네? 그 사진 이렇게 하는 걸 뭐라 그러지? 나 아직도 막 심장이 두근거려. 응? 포츠? 칼빈? 우와. 헉! 우와, 여기 뭐지? 쌍둥이인가?
I
대단한데?
knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
아,
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
응?
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
지금 이게 켈빈인가?
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready! Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible.
쌤은 들어갔나 봐.
Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt. I think he'd already made up his mind.
오,
That's what I want to remember about my brother. That's the day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
여기 뭔가 좀 이상하다.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
할아버지. 응? 데칼코마니?
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies. My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
그랬구나.
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
여기가 몰리?
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947. A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night. Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in
어?
the library.
이건 아까 했고.
The power had been turned off the night we left. Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
어? 해피 벌스데이.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
뭐야?
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
오, 좋은 정보다, 이거.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue.
아, 이거 안경 벗어야겠다. 너무 불편하다.
She reached for the music box.
헉! 내가?
And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
무서워. 내가 움직여야 돼. 노랫소리 왜 저래? 어떡해? 어떡하지?
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
어떡해? 헉! 놀라지 말자. 놀라지 말자.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
괜찮아.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
놀라지 말자. 왜 또 천천히 가?
Oh dear!
이씨.
Oh!
Rick?
제정신이야?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
난
Then
좀
act furious.
겁먹었어.
All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
가야 돼? 안 가면 안 될까? 저기 침대 밑에 뭐 있나 보다. 옆에 오른쪽에 저 컷 보이죠? 제발.
Walter, are you there?
하필.
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
뒤에. 이 아이 바보야, 뒤에.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully. She thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do it. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
죽었나? 죽었어? 왜 안 끝났을까? 사라졌다.
Had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
뒤.
Oh dear.
아,
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl.
뭐야?
She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it
뭐야?
all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard. But that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear.
어,
Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
뭐야?
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
에바다. 진짜 에바다. 이거 안 열려?
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
그러니까. 나도 알 것 같다. 나라도 안 좋아했을 듯. 거기 안에 열면 귀 있는 거 아니지? 이거 공포 게임이었나?
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
화상풍 주사?
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
뭐야? 안 보여.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a
뭐야?
pattern in all these stories,
여기 벙커인가?
I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine.
오, 어떻게 된 거야?
That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to
괴물?
feel normal,
괴물이 어딨어?
almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
그러게. 지겹겠다.
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
또 있어.
I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
아, 결국 죽었나 봐.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
와,
I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
아무것도 모르게? 왜? 이거. 근데 알아서 좋을 게 없긴 해.
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house,
삼촌이구나.
I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself
뭐야.
and found out what happened to everyone else.
나 혹시 임신했나?
But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse,
저주.
we made it real.
뭐 해야 되지? 여기구나.
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of.
그렇네. 애기 가졌다.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
저주를 믿은 것 같다. 이걸 끝낼 수 있다고 생각했던 건가?
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
여긴 못 가네요.
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
그렇네. 잠깐만.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
뭐지? 여기는 사람이, 뭐야? 여기도 사람이 아닌가?
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
에디만 왜 이렇게 돼 있지? 헉, 저 위에 이거 장식들도 와,
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
예전지?
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
여긴 어디야?
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself.
하, 큰일 났다. 무서운데?
But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
괜찮아?
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
오. 사진 찍는 걸 좋아하셨다 했나?
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
What? Am I gonna have to shoot?
Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are. Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
No, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years.
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you need to be strong.
와.
Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Dawn. Just gotta reset the timer.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
아, 오케이.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
아, 애기 잃었어?
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something
케이랑
funny was happening, but only he
결혼했었구나.
could see it.
그 개구리.
I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Send over Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin.
아,
Lost in his imagination.
그러게.
was he saw.
어떻게 하는 거지? 어? 여러분, 컨트롤 이슈 어떻게 해야 되죠? 됐다.
Sure made him happy.
옆에 있는 것도? 옆에 있는 것 아닌가?
I know how silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
개구리 죽었어?
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw.
나 익사했구나.
There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
결국 그래서 이혼했나 보다. 그레고리에 대해선 코멘트가 없네.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea.
어?
Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
어려운데?
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that I remembered.
어머, 계모가 필요 없대. 어.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger.
와우.
The wind picked up and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
진짜?
Rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
안돼.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
우와. 그 엄마 시점이었구나. 자세 좀 고쳐 앉았습니다. 와우.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
그러면 그레고리는 동생이었나 보다. 헉. 엄마다. 인디야? 환경에 관심이 많았나?
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
안제.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
밀턴, 에디스, 루이스. 바지, 민트.
And to see kids in the house again.
밀턴이
The house
그럼
had to
큰
get a little bigger, but
루이스가
Edie
큰
was used to that.
오빠겠다.
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. but it didn't
정상적인
last.
느낌?
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared,
뭐야?
the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
발자국? 밀턴.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
우와. 아추. 이게 뭐지? 터널? 문이다, 문. 헉! 문으로 갔다.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
아,
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
하필 이쪽으로 와버렸네.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room. Except Louis.
루이스는 와도 된다고 했나 보다. 귀여운데? 아이고, 죄송해요. 여기 루이스 방이야?
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
어? 내가 안 갔는데?
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
게임 속으로 들어간 거 아니야, 얘? 우와. 레드 킹 스트림. 엄마다.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
이게 뭐야?
And things that have not names.
대박.
He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery.
그러게.
I spoke with his
위험한데?
boss.
너무 위험해.
But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
아무 생각이 없어서
Like a whole new Lewis.
이 현실에 대해서. 그래서
So I
일을
let him go
잘했나
on.
봐.
I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first.
점점 커진다.
He
이
told me he'd
망상이.
made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play.
와.
He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet,
아, 현실
were
같아?
all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his
어떡해.
mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a beautiful prince.
우와.
The prince was on his own quest for radiant rainbows.
아이고, 지나쳐 버렸네.
He followed the sound of his silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound.
안 보여.
He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
이게 상상인 걸 알면서도 빠질 수밖에 없는 거야?
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming.
어떡해.
And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
현실이다.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
로이스인가?
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
로이스.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder.
뭘?
The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
어떡해. 지금까지 본 것 중에 제일 잔인한
My
것 같아.
brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
이게 그 공장 락커에 있던 건가 보다.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
밀ton.
I wish we'd stayed.
Oh.
But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
여기 내 방인 것 같은데?
But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
항상 서재에 있다 그랬지? 가족이.
The thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. but I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things.
이 사슴이 뭐 있나? 노루인가?
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car, and I never saw Great Grandma Edie again.
Oh.
The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this.
그러게.
If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is.
나도 죽나?
This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
와, 진짜 소름 돋았다. 닭살 돋았다. 끝났어? 이렇게? 어머. 되게 짧다, 근데. 애기 이름 뭘로 했을까?